Well, hello, everybody in Paleo FX land. How's everybody doing on this fine Thursday morning? I have with me the founder and CEO of realFIT, Dave Potswold, live and in charge from. I guess you're in Dallas right now. Is that right, Dave?
I'm in Big D, downtown Dallas.
Big D. That is Texas's version of LA. Just saying. Dave, how you doing today? Everything going well? Everything going well in your world?
Great. I'm excited. It's hard to believe that Paleo FX is only 6 weeks away.
Yes, thank you for making my stomach drop. Just saying that. Yeah, and so we already have so we office out of the house now, and the second floor of our house is office space, and we already have people. Like we have our expo manager. Pete Bowman is in from the Bay Area right now, so he's staying at the house. So we already have team members starting to descend on Casa de Norris here in Austin, Texas, to get ready for Paleo FX. But Dave, first of all, tell people what is realFIT, because I've been fascinated with what you've been doing with realFIT for what's it been, the last 4 or 5 years?
Yes,
5 years. Yeah. I've been fascinated with what you've created with realFIT and what you've done with it. I think it's a fascinating concept. It's one of those things. It was like, damn, I wish I would have thought of that. But Dave thought of it. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I think as a former athlete understand, it really came to fruition after recovering from an athletic injury, and you've got all that downtime. You don't know what to do with yourself, right? So it had been an idea that I'd had for a long period of time, but finally had the time to actually make it happen after another Achilles injury, right? But the whole idea was that, we have so many metrics out there for, golf or bowling or even like chess ratings, but we never had a universal rating for fitness. So the original idea was, why do we not have the fitness equivalent of your credit score? And why do you not receive the same financial benefits for being more fit as you have for paying the idea of credit? So the idea of someone my age, all they want to know is, how old are you? Maybe they take a little bit of more information, but that's what you pay for your insurance. Right. So I was like, well, why do I pay the same amount for insurance if I'm more fit than somebody else?
Right.
And that's the idea, just like you would get a better rate on a loan if you had a better credit score. So, right. So there's the fundamental idea that and then it turned into, well, how do you actually do that? Then it gets into defining fitness. What are the right measures of fitness? And you and I probably flash back to our old President's Fitness days, right?
Yes.
Which to me, the most pure measure of fitness was back in grade school when you say, how many push-ups you could do, how many pull-ups could you do, how far could you broad jump, right? So it's almost like taking that concept into the more general population and saying, you know what, let's quantify what it means to be fit, and then hopefully build some momentum around getting benefits for that, and then the other thing is, I look at personal trainers, or when you want to compare to when you were a younger self, am I getting more or less fit than I was before? And until you have a baseline to measure, you really can't, tell if you're getting more or less fit. So I always look at.
I was going to say, I think what's really cool about your concept is you're not saying that what tests need to be measured, but that you can measure and quantify anybody's test. So you can use this in a football scenario, in a baseball scenario, in a first responders scenario. Mm-hmm. So to create tests that test the abilities of those various groups and then quantify and measure those, which exactly. I think is a fascinating concept.
Well, I think, and then we work with some first responders, right? So you think about, in almost every profession, especially those that do fitness testing, have some kind of fitness test as part of their qualification. But for firefighters, it's much more cardio-based, and police is more explosive-based, right? So kind of power versus thing. And then, but they all do some kind of obstacle course or something, right? So they try to get to that. But it's funny to me, being when you meet somebody, if they're a golfer, you say, how good are you? They say, well, my handicap or my index is 3.2. Instantly, that how good they are.
Right.
Right? And if you go to someone who plays chess, they have a chess rating. If you know someone who bowls, they say, well, my average is 222. Like, wow, that's really good. If you have that conversation with someone who's fit, you say, well, Keith, how fit are you? You'd say, then you get, well, how much do you bench?
Right,
You
right,
know, how much do you bench, how much do you deadlift, or something like,
right.
or how fast do you run a 40? And then someone who's a sprinter, well, gee, that's a sprinter. How fast can you run 10K, or what's your marathon time, right?
Right.
So it's, you really can't have it, and so you try to find these measures where you say, okay, what's a common test that I can equate? So what was when you were playing football, what was your 40 time?
So this is it. My 40 time when I was playing football was in the 4.7, 4.6 range, right? And now that's hand timed.
Yeah.
So this is coach's eye, start and stop,
right?
We know now. Go ahead. I was just
it's just but even just by saying you're on your 4.6, 4.7, that says that's pretty darn fast,
right?
Right. When we look at our realFIT testing, if you can break 5 seconds, you're in the 90th percentile of anybody can actually run a 40.
Right.
And if I had the 5 cents for everybody that said they could break 5, and then we test them, and I'm speaking as a proud 5.22 guy,
right
now much older, but I don't think I was ever at that speed, right?
Now when we did this test, Dave, I couldn't break 5 seconds either, and I was shocked. I was like, "What? I can't break 5 seconds?" But I mean, that's a hell of a feat because you actually measure accurately too. That's it. That's the other part of this.
And that's the other point too, is that you have to define what you mean to run that, because first thing is when someone, so I ran a 4.4 back in high school. I'm like, was that your coach that kind of had the shaky stopwatch, or was that a digital time, right? So you're right. So part of the thing about realFIT is not only defining what are good tests that measure the right level of fitness, but then what are the procedures and protocols and timing methods around that. And it's the same for, I was mentioning there's a famous video on Facebook right now about a woman in Australia who broke the world's record for burpees in 60 minutes. And it's some outrageous thousands of number. But you look at the comments, everybody said 0, 0, 0.
Right.
They were waiting for their first official burpee. And then it got into a discussion of what Guinness calls a burpee versus what everybody else calls a burpee, right? So and then the other one is a pull-up. So then even, we have one of our standard tests is a pull-up. And the first thing too is it a CrossFit kipping pull-up, or is it a military pull-up, right?
Right.
And those are two very different tests of how they do it. So that's where we've had some fun to try to define what are tests that make sense, what are the standards that are appropriate for each of those tests, and then how do you put those into a collection of stuff to say for football or for baseball, what tests are the best indicator of performance for that particular activity.
Right. And that's super exciting that you guys, number one, that you quantify stuff in any exercise, you quantify it, but then you define exactly what that exercise is.
Yeah. And we provide you what are some guidelines for, is that good or not? Because that was one of the things too, is that you say, okay, I've got the test. Okay, Dave, I'm going to do pull-ups. How many is good, right? So when we say, we also believe, by the way, in an absolute standard. It's really not male, female, or how heavy you are or how old you are. We believe for some of the tests, you actually have to have an absolute standard, because I don't want to discount because I reached another age milestone. Right. And some women don't want to be saying, well, I want a separate scale. I want to be judged on the same scale, right? So we believe in an absolute scale. We have the ability to have different scales based on whatever dimension you want, but the concept of an absolute scale is also pretty powerful too. Yeah. Like a plank hold. That's one of our, you think about the classic things that someone's watching, they want to see, if you can do a plank hold for 4 minutes, you're in the 90th percentile. If you can do 15 strict pull-ups, that's in the 90th percentile, right? If you can row under 1 minute 40 seconds for 500 meters, that's in that level. So those so those are the kind of things that we can give information to say, well, gee, I want to get to that threshold, right? And that's what we did every year for Paleo, right? Is we came up with a particular challenge designed for Paleo types of stuff, including the ARX machines, including other kinds of raw Paleo type of primitive type of challenges, right?
Right.
That's where we had a lot of fun putting these things together.
But this year we have something new that realFIT is going to roll out, and we're super excited about this. Explain what you guys are going to be doing this year, Dave.
Well, this one, I apologize. I see my background's floating around behind me. But No, what's different is that for the last few years, we've held a FITscore challenge where we have designed a custom set of tests to challenge the participants. And we get some good athletes that came out of that. And the winner of these challenges actually got a free ticket to the next year's event. So we got some pretty, and we actually have the legends on our website, the people that have won this contest. Some really impressive performances. But as the event has become more, event driven or more, there's just simply too many things to do for someone to be able to complete all of the tests. So we instead of having a challenge where there's a score and a leaderboard and you have to complete all the tests, we are doing something called the realFIT Midway, which was inspired by a trip to the Texas State Fair last year. So it's kind of like what you would have at a midway at a fair, except all of the challenges and the tests are fitness related as opposed to kind of a carnival game. So everything is fitness related. The advantage for the participant is that they don't have to sign up for anything. They can step up and see if they can win the prize. And that's going to be the fun, because some of these prizes are pretty good, but also some of the challenges are pretty hard. So they might think they can do it, but I'm more like, okay, step right up and see if you can flip that tire. And you get a prize if you do, but you get nothing if you don't. And that's going to be some fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to that. This is going to be cool, and maybe I can even participate in some of this stuff because it's set up for once. Yes.
Well, maybe Keith. What we should do is we should have something that's if you set the target, and if they beat Keith Norris, they get a prize. So we could set up something like that, right?
You better bring your A game. I'm saying, better bring your A game.
And no, I don't want to go against you. I don't think I can. So I think the idea is that we're going. The big difference is that instead of a challenge where you have to complete all the tests and feel like you can't engage if you just have a few minutes, you can stop by either inside or outside, participate in one of our challenges, and then win a prize or come back and try later if you don't. What's really different I'm excited about is we've actually created our own currency for this event, in that it's free for attendees, but these things cost money, right? So and we're kind of in the Paleo tradition, we're going to have it be a barter system, right? So we have actually come up with our own Paleo currency that you will need to participate in our midway, right? So that's the kind of fun. So if you think about a typical state fair, it costs you something to throw the ball or to shoot a hoop, right? Trying to get a prize. It costs you $3 for 5 shots, right? Well, in our thing, it'll cost you something, but the way you earn the currency is by doing work. So based on, we'll have some challenges, some events where for a certain number of pull-ups, you'll get this many coins. For a certain number of push-ups, you'll get this many coins. Certain number of animal lifts, you'll get this number of coins, which you can then redeem in our prize booth for prizes, kind of like a Dave & Buster's kind of thing. Or you could use it to enter the bigger ticket items to say, I want to try that row, or I want to try that tire flip, with the idea that if you win, you get an even bigger amount. So you can kind of multiply that currency.
That is
right. And so we had some fun. And we hope that we're also going to engage some other vendors to say it's not only you have the chance to win or some of the realFIT stuff, but actually work with the other vendors and say, hey, you might get some coffee, or you might get a free massage treatment, or you might be some for achieving some of these challenges, right? So we're working with the other vendors to kind of accept this currency and maybe even offer prizes for some of the things that they achieve a certain standard. So it's going to be a very different thing, easy to engage. I think people will, this is the chance to prove, that you can either run that 40 or you can lift that tire. And so it should be a lot of fun. I wanted to share with you too, because we actually designed our own currency.
Yeah, let's see it.
On the back of the coins are going to be the United Tribe of Paleo FX with the legendary spear dude. So this is the back of the coin, if you can see that. And then we will have different denominations, of course, paleocentric. One would be a plantium for a plant. We would have the next level would be some fire, which is worth 5. And then, of course, the much valuable buffalo, which would be a 10. And we're still playing around with the values, but it's going to be kind of fun. And in fact, I've even mocked these things up so that you can imagine this is going to be a very valuable currency at the event.
That's
so we're going to have some.
Is that the 5-second 40, Dave?
It is. Well, in fact, you might get 50 buffalons for that if you can do it.
Right.
And just for people to at the state fair, here's a good thing for people to practice, because we are going to have this at the event. Can you hang from a bar, straight arm, for 2 minutes? That's what they do at the state fair. That's what they do, and it sounds surprisingly easy. It is not.
Just like the 4-minute plank, right? It sounds so easy to just 4 minutes.
The first 30 seconds, I can do this. Yeah. And the one thing we're going to do, I can promise, that unlike a typical fair where they kind of rig the events in favor of the carnival, where they might tilt the basket, for those of us that play basketball, they might make it 11 feet and make the rim oval, not round. This is not rigged. So we're going to have a straight bar. There's no grease on it like I think they put at the state fair. So, but if people want to try that, start practicing now, because you might be able to get there by I actually have not been able to do it yet.
Right.
I've about a minute and 30 seconds, and I'm just kind of like, okay, I want to be able to do that because it's actually testing grip strength. The other thing we're going to do along with that, we're going to be using some, like we talked about, the different devices. We actually are going to be using a grip strength measurer. And this is one, Keith, that we want you to participate in.
Right, and you can't cheat that. That's one thing. I mean,
I'll just do it live right here, right? So it's like, see how it's getting that, and then we'll do it. So what did I have? 118.2.
Right.
Ugh, I need to work on that. But I can tell you that the threshold for getting a prize is 150. And so if you know someone with a powerful handshake, or somebody that's really think they have strong fingers,
right,
bring them over to that. But we have found, actually, the record, I've been testing people all around Dallas. I've seen someone hit 169, and it's not a big guy. He's a rock climber.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we did, you'll find, is, what do you think the difference is between your right and your left hand? Right. For me, it's about 85% strength in the offhand. This guy actually had the same measure for both hands. So it's like, wow, that's a pretty good thing. So this is what I'm going to. You better practice, Keith. I'm going to put you on the. I'm going to post your score, and then maybe that's the target.
All right, I'll start working on my grip strength now. I've got so many things on my plate to do, and now I'm going to have to add. But
Cale, our friend, our legend, Cale Schultz, has done it, and I think he's well over the 150, right? So that's something that we can use as a benchmark as well. Some of our prior legends.
Are you going to have a vertical jump there?
Yes, we do. We do have a vertical, so that would be one of those.
That's when you can't really cheat either. I mean, if you measure it correctly, it's you either do it or you don't. Much like the broad jump, you either do it or you don't. Yeah. And
you think, and then it makes it, to me, the other thing about what we're trying to do with realFIT is celebrate those really high performers. So if you say, remember our ball toss, right? The other one's kind of a very primitive thing. You take an 8-pound medicine ball, and how far can you throw it? Right. If you can throw that 30 feet, 35 feet, that's pretty good. Well, former cowboy threw it almost 60 feet. Right. So when you put that marker out there and you hand someone this ball, they say there is no way that someone could throw it that far. Right. Or if you do that broad jump, right? Say, what's the NFL combine record? I think almost 13 feet, right? Yeah. So if someone can do, that was one thing, Keith, as I got older. The broad jump is even worse than the vertical. The jump and the vert age will take that from you quick. Yeah. Very, very humble. But the other thing is the speed thing. I was always amazed too with people that would be watching an offensive lineman on TV, a 300-pound lineman, and they're rumbling down and they're running like a 5.1 or even a 5 second or something, and everybody's saying, "Gosh, this guy's slow. I could outrun him." Like, no, you're not going to outrun him. Yeah. Yeah. And he's running after you with intent. So, right. As part of it is just to say, gee, that's to celebrate someone that can hang for 3 minutes, or to I see people holding handstands for a long period of time. I know there's a handstand clinic at the S&C floor. Right. So we might have a little thing somehow. So I want to celebrate those people that can achieve that high level
Emily
much
Johnson, if you're listening, Emily Johnson, she is a handstand queen. She'll be.
She's also has the most perfect pull-up form of anybody.
Right. Yeah.
That I've ever come across. But I'm sure she could do. I've got to believe that it's just how long she would say, well, how long do you want me to hold it for?
Right.
But well, and I bet you can do the arm hang pretty easily too. So we'll figure out some way to reward the people that perform the best in a particular test as well.
So will you have male female categories, I guess, like for the grip strength?
We'll have different standards.
Right.
We'll have probably different standards for each one to say, but at the arm hang, there's no different standard for the arm hang.
Right.
There might be some things that are weight driven, like the ball toss,
right,
or maybe the vertical, but some things, and we're also looking to some of the club type of things that we have. Like just can you hold out this club for a period of time, right? Because there's some things that are actually you physically can't do. I know for some of those ones around the Olympic lifts, it's really hard to get into the position that some of the CrossFitters do.
And it's technique driven too, right? So Olympic lifting is mostly technique. Take nothing away from their strength. They're incredibly strong individuals, but it's so technique driven, which, a vertical jump, a broad jump, running, holding something out, hanging from something. There's not a whole lot of technique there. You just do it. Yeah.
And we try to focus on those tests that are not technique specific, just because they're comparable across sport. Because once you're within the discipline, you might have your own unique measures.
Right.
For, like in baseball, they have pop time, right? Or, in football, it might be 0 to 10 or something. So there might be some specific things. We're trying to come up with those baseline set of tests that if you're a marathon runner, if you're a power lifter, if you're a CrossFitter, if you're an MMA fighter, there are some things that are kind of, you don't need to know how to do them, but I'm curious to see how they perform.
Right. Dave, for your 40-yard dash measurements, is that Frisbee golf guy still the tops of the list? That was one of our remarkable things, right? Right.
That some of that was totally unexpected, came out of nowhere and just blistered that test, that we almost like, are these numbers right?
Right.
So I think that's one of the other things too, is that some people don't respect some of the lesser known sports, I would say. So I think we talk a lot about the athleticism of football players or basketball players, or, but gymnasts, rock climbers, martial artists, I would, if I'm betting, I would probably say for some of those people that are doing, I would say the gymnastics, rock climbers, martial art, that are doing so much stuff with their hands, a lot of our tests, they would just crush those. And sometimes I don't think they get the respect versus the pure speed or the visible things about how much weight can I push or how fast can I cover a certain distance.
Right. And when we were out at UT just playing around with the test years ago, I remember that there was a kid out there who was playing Frisbee football with his friends and walked up and was like, "Hey man, what are y'all doing over here?" We're like, "Well, we're timing a 40." And he's like, "Can I jump in and do it?" And he blistered everybody.
Yeah, and we have all the people that are testing. We're like all ex-college athletes. We're like stretching up and we're getting ready to start this thing. And he just said, "Hey dudes, what are you doing?" Came over, blistered the test, and said, "Take care." And then went back to playing Frisbee, ultimate Frisbee. Like, what just happened? Right. But those are the things we've discovered. Some of those, like our pal on the Hall of Fame, Dean Pullman, right, from the Manflow Yoga. He was one I remember who does just yoga. Right. And he's I think he finished second 3 years in a row. So he was a remarkable athlete in that. Remember we were doing the 40, he kind of just showed up. Yep. And I'm like, "Do you need to stretch this?" "No, I'm good. Yeah. I'm good." "What about the vertical?" "No, I'm good. I'm always loose." I'm like, how do you do that? Right. But so, to me, the respect I have for somebody like that has incredible amounts of athleticism, but does not pursue a traditional visible sport. Right. I think the other thing I think was with all this college admission scandal, you have to be as offended by me by people faking their achievements. And I would say, as someone who's also academically oriented, it's one thing to cheat on a test. That's an academic test that's existed forever. But I never imagined someone would fake a tennis background or a soccer background or a water polo background. So I think there's a market to say, can you certify, can I document that I actually did these things in somehow some independent fashion? Right. So I was even thinking about that. It's like, that's just crazy. If you can't kick a soccer ball, it'd be very hard to think you were all conference or most valuable player for your team.
I'll tell you somebody else I'm very, very curious about in doing these tests. Daryl Edwards, if you're listening, do some of these tests, because this guy never touches a weight, but he is incredibly strong. Yep. I mean, I've done some of Daryl's exercises with him. He is an incredibly strong guy. Never lifts weights at all. He's just a fit dude who does his primal play, and he would be one of those guys who would probably blister a 40-yard dash if you ever, if you ever did it.
And it's kind of that practical experience, right?
Right.
To say, so that to me is the fun part, to discover those hidden talents of the folks that never really measured that, right?
Right. Well, I can tell you that Ben Greenfield, I'm sure, will be spending a lot of time on the midway, on the realFIT Paleo FX midway. I know he'll be out there quite a bit.
And it's funny you mentioned Ben, because this is a good chance to kind of recognize a lot of the people that participate. Many people will come to our booth and say, well, what did Ben do?
Right.
Right. As kind of an informal benchmark, right? Because I think that's where people are saying, again, I don't know what is good. And so I think with guys like Ben or Dean or Daryl or Kale or Emily, those are people that, to me, define what is good. And I would say that we have some remarkable athletes that are at your conference. Yeah. Remarkable athletes. And so it's fun to celebrate those in a very different way.
And it's shocking that they are incredible in disciplines that you would never consider them, that they would be credible at, like Kale just murdering the row. I mean,
I still don't understand that. I still don't understand how he could do under 3 minutes in the 1,000-meter row.
Yeah. You expect him to be strong, right? He's gonna pick up a lot of weight off the ground. You know that. You just look at him, he's going to be a very, very strong dude. But to think that he could row like that, that was unreal.
It's remarkable to watch. That might be something we have to do a Facebook. And again, right now, though, I also know that Kale, after doing said performance, disappeared around the back of the building for probably 45 minutes.
I bet he did.
So, which I'm not sure I would have ever come back. But I think the idea that. So I know he's like, oh my God, guys, you just signed me up to do that row again.
Right.
I think you get to another point, though, is sometimes it's like we say someone is strong. What does that mean?
Right.
There's different types of strength. I always use the analogy to say, who's stronger if you've got a 135-pound guy that can bench 300 or a 250-pound guy that can bench 450?
Right.
And a lot of people say, well, pound for pound, it's the smaller guy. I'm like, well, if you're trapped underneath the car, who do you want to be there?
Right.
So in a raw sense, it's like, okay, the stronger is the person who can push more weight.
Right.
Now what you're talking about is relative measures or some kind of endurance or something like that. So I want the strongest. I want the guy who can lift the most amount of weight. I want Kale next to if I'm trapped underneath the car.
Right.
Not a 5'2" version of him.
Right.
Right.
Or apparently, if I need someone to row me to safety. That's who I want towards. Yeah.
I think that one, so people are thinking about prepping. We're definitely going to have a row. We're going to have an arm hang. We're going to have a ball toss, some of the classic Paleo FX FITscore kinds of challenges. But we're going to set the bar pretty high because you and I both share the philosophy that there's no participation ribbons or trophies.
Right. And I can tell you, Dave is hardcore about that. It doesn't matter if it's a kid or what. It's like your chin was not over the bar. That is not a pull-up.
Kid in the world is not going to get the I'm pretty harsh about that. But I think it's funny that the people kids especially actually respond to that.
Right.
Because then when they get it, it's truly reward. So I would say that if you see somebody that's carrying around one, they actually did work.
Right.
We might put some of these in your VIP bags or something like that, just to have people to be able to spend them. But I guarantee you we won't be giving away a Buffalo coin. So So if someone's got that, and they might be able to, like you do in Vegas, color up your chips.
Right.
You might have a big stack of ones,
Right.
but you're trying to get a buffalo. It's going to take some work.
Right.
So that would be that's kind of like we used to give away a T-shirt or something for completing these things. Now you're gonna get currency. So I'm hoping that we'll have someone with a big stack at the end of the event.
Right. So if you've got that buffalo coin, we know you mean business. You have actually done something incredible.
You earned it. It was not given.
Right.
And that's again, that kind of gets back to what that was the whole nature of realFIT in the name, is that there's being true to in having high standards. There's nothing wrong with having high standards. And in fact, we should celebrate that. And I think this is just kind of a larger frustration I think you and I both share with just the gradual acceptance of lower performance. And that's just why we want to say there's FIT and then there's realFIT. And we want to celebrate the people that actually make it and kind of challenge the ones that don't. But we're never going to sacrifice that standard or give away something that's not earned.
Right. And another discussion for another day, but when you're talking about hand strength, the current Generation Z, and I guess the millennials, for the first time this has ever been measured, have actually, as a generation, have had less grip strength than the previous generation.
Mm-hmm.
And the kickback on that, or from academia, was, well, we'll just reset the standards to lower standards of what is healthy and fit. No, you don't reset the standards.
It's not good in academics, and it's not good in fitness, right? And I think it's something that people can do every day. Like you mentioned, the guy that's the primal person. To me, just carrying groceries or carrying a bag. I do a lot of travel or something. There's taking the stairs. There's some primal things that we've lost, I believe, in how we've approach things, and it is pretty shocking. I wish we had some data, around what is strong and these things. But this is something that I guarantee people will keep coming back to. This, especially if they see someone that's might have an incredible grip strength that doesn't really work out.
Right.
I said I think my hypothesis is that it's a rock climber or a gymnast that's going to have the highest grip strength. Did you happen to see that movie, that Free Solo? That documentary?
I haven't.
The guy
on my bucket list, though. But yeah.
So he's doing all of his pull-ups just on his fingertips.
Right.
And he can hold himself with just a toe or one finger. I'm like,
right.
So there's something. So that's where it's something you say, gee, on this one, I would bet there's a lot of big guys out there that are going to be crushed by a rock climber or a gymnast on this particular test.
Sure, yeah. Or if there's a pipe fitter out there those guys have incredibly strong hands. You get a roughneck pipe fitter, yes.
Exactly.
Right.
So I think, and again, I think those are, and then the ball toss too, again. So we're going to have some fun events that, we're not really measuring how far you're throwing it. We're saying, can you throw it past this particular thing and win a prize? Kind of the fitness equivalent of ringing the bell by slinging the sledgehammer and see if you can ring the bell.
Right.
So these are legitimate tests that might be even good just to benchmark whatever workout program you're doing, to do every once in a while, just to see whether you're getting stronger. And that's kind of why what we're promoting. That's where the linkage between our sponsorship and Paleo FX is that we encourage people to say, regardless of fitness path they've taken, every once in a while, might just want to benchmark yourself on this grip strength. Because then to me, our view is that we want to work with, we're not a gym or we're not a training program. I would love to find someone to say, Dave, here's a program to increase your grip strength, right?
Right.
So I'm like, okay, well, I would say, okay, start doing more. So I've started to do more fingertip pull-ups. I've started just to hang from the bar.
Right.
You do a lot of, if you do a lot of deadlifts with dumbbells, those are really harder step-ups so there's a lot of things you can say, because to your point earlier, I think grip strength is one of those things that it's remarkable how fast it's lost, but how practical it is in real life to have that strength.
Right.
I always imagine myself, you've seen these movies where the hero is hanging off with a bridge, and then one arm and they're rescuing something else.
Right.
So I always imagine to say, okay, I'm hanging. I've got to hang for a good 2 minutes just to save the world.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's really hard. So I think that's something that said we're going to have fun with the events this year, that they'll be practical. And then I want them to be able to send to me a message later to say, Dave, I finally got to it. because it's my goal that I'm going to hit 2 minutes during this event. So that's what I've been practicing.
Excellent.
I'll never hit the kale rowing. I'll never hit the kale.
Never say never, Dave. Never say never.
You're right. You're right. I've been working secretly. But I would tell you one thing. There's some tests that the 500-meter row or repeats is probably one of the most brutal tests if you go at it hard.
I can attest to that. It is.
Right? So you think about some of these things. You think about some of these things. So if many of the Paleo FX attendees are very data driven, they're very determined, they're very sharp, smart, fit people. So to me, it's something I want to have them leave with. Here's a few benchmarks.
Right.
Say, can you do this on the grip string? Can you hang for 2 minutes? Can you throw the ball this far? Can you run this particular speed? Right? And that's something that I think will carry over for whatever they do. For the idea next year they're coming back, and at that point I'm say, well, now it's 2 minutes 30.
Right.
They're like, Dave, wait. I'm like,
right.
It's a market-driven currency. So I'm guessing that there will be some people at your event they'll find a lot of these things very easy. But I would bet most of them will say, gee, I've never tried that, but now I'm kind of, what am I doing wrong? Or what can I do that? And again, I think the grip strength is one that we're gonna be pushing a lot.
Right. Well, Dave, I look very, very forward to this. I can't wait to see what all is going on there. And I say this every year, but I'm really, really, really going to attempt at least to do the grip strength or something to try to get a couple of these in during the show. But it was great having you on. I can't wait to see you guys, Team realFIT, out at Paleo FX this year. And everybody, get ready for this. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a great break in the action. We're
right in the center of everything. Right, it's an easy way to come by on your way. And there's a rule that, again, I'm going to remember if you say I'm coming back. I'm good at remembering if you walk by.
Remember.
I don't run out of time. Like, okay, come back here later. So right in the center, you can't avoid us, and at least come and watch and celebrate some of the people, because when someone does achieve it, we want to find a way to celebrate it. So you can at least come by and watch some of these people try. Right.
It'll be big fun. All right, Dave, thanks for taking time out of your day to come on to speak with us. Everybody else out there in Paleo land, make sure to get your tickets for Paleo FX, April 26th through the 28th in beautiful Austin, Texas, and you want to be there. Austin is beautiful in the spring. You might not want to see us in August, but in April, it's a beautiful place to be. All right, Dave, have a good one.
Take care. Thanks again. See you soon.
All right.